Hi you guys, thank you for tuning into my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing pattern sizes and how to make sure that when you purchase your patterns, you are purchasing the right size for you. When I first started sewing patterns, I would make sure that I had my measurements, and then I would go to the store and I would match my measurements to the measurements on the back of the pattern envelope. And when I did that, I would then go home and I would, cut my pattern pieces according to the measurements on the back of the envelope. And at that point, I already knew how to sew. I learned to sew pretty young. I wasn't a expert at that time, but I knew how to use a sewing machine and straight stitch and whatnot. So then I purchased my pattern. I went home and I cut my pattern according to the size on the back of the envelope. And I was so excited to get my little dress on. I put my dress on and I thought I was ready to go. But then my clothes was huge on me. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. I followed the instructions. I cut the right size. But yet my clothes are ill-fitting. I mean, what's going on here? I mean, am I doing something wrong? So then, like most of us do, I go on YouTube and I look up all these videos on getting my patterns right, making sure that my clothes fit. And I found some videos that were showing me how to alter patterns to make my clothes fit, and videos that were telling me how to use muslin first. And once I used my muslin, then I, made alterations off of that. For me, I love sewing very much, but I can get a little bit lazy when I sew, because when I sew, I want to find the best but easiest way to get it done so that I can move quickly through the sewing process. And because of that, I started to kind of not want to sew as much because it was just so time consuming with the cutting, the alterations, and all that stuff. And I just wasn't sewing that much in the beginning when I first started using patterns. But then one day I looked on something and I noticed what I was doing all along. I saw the difference between the measurements on the pattern envelope and the measurements on the pattern pieces. And I realized I was cutting my pattern pieces wrong all along. I'm going to start off using McCalls 7834 as my example pattern for the big four, because that's what I'm currently working on. So I'm going to use my measurements as an example. I am a 38 in the bust, and I am a 30 in the waist, and I am a 38 in the hips. And according to the envelope, I should be cutting a size 16. However, if you move on over to the pattern sheet, it's telling me that a 38 bust is between a size 10 and 12. That is about a 4 size difference, you guys. And when I first started sewing and I was cutting according to this, my garment would be ill-fitting and so big, and I never understood why. However, when I figured it out and I started cutting my pattern based on these measurements, then I realized, okay, this is the way to do it, because when I cut it this way, everything fit just right. Now we're going to move on to the simplicity pattern. With the simplicity pattern, on the back of the envelope, it's saying that with my measurements, I should be cutting a size 16, just like McCall says a size 16. However, the difference is when I look at the pattern piece, my measurements line up with a size 14. That is the difference. McCall has about a 4 size different, whereas Simplicity's only a 2 size different, which is really not that bad. That's something I don't mind altering. It's not too much alterations. However, when I did make a mistake and I cut the Simplicity the wrong size, it did not fit that badly. It just did not fit me to a T. which is not bad at all. But as far as simplicity goes, I will say that they are almost spot on with the sizing. Now on to my Indi patterns. I absolutely love working with Indi patterns because the sizing is spot on. Whatever the measurements they tell you are on the envelope, it usually fits me to a T. Again, I'm not saying you may not have to make alterations. You may have to alter the crotch area, the butt size, what have you. However, as far as the fit around the waist and the bust and the hips, it's pretty spot on. Not a difference at all. So I really love working with these patterns. I've heard many people say that they prefer using Indi patterns because they like the paper, they like the standard of the paper they use. They like that it fits you to a T. Sizing is pretty much on point. Me personally, I prefer the Big Four mainly because I like that they go in tow with what I see on the runway. They are easy for me to hack and create pieces that I see on celebrities whose style I like. So I really enjoy the Big Four. I enjoy it more so now that I understand it and I understand how to size myself for it and I understand how to cut the pieces. However, with Indi patterns, I still love Indi patterns. They're just so expensive. But I buy them sometimes because sometimes it's worth it. There are some Indi patterns I will spend money on because it's worth it. But what I will remind you again is that what I've taught you today, I'm not saying that taking these steps is going to make sure you don't have to make any alterations. Everybody's body type is different. Some people are proportioned, some people are not as proportioned. So you may have to alter in certain places, maybe your bust area, your butt, your hips, what have you. For me, I'm pretty proportioned. So when I cut my pattern pieces and I follow the steps I showed you, it pretty much fits me pretty well, and I just cut and sew. It doesn't take long for me to sew. So with that being said, whatever you like, whether it be Indi or the Big Four, that will be determined by your knowledge of the pattern itself, your knowledge of how to size yourself, your knowledge of how to measure yourself, and your knowledge of how to know what size to cut. Me, I've been using the Big Four for so long, I don't even have to look at the sizing because I already know I'm a size 12 in McCalls and I'm a size 14 in Simplicity. And when I use a size, I'm pretty good. I'm ready to go. But what you do, in my opinion, is you should test out how the garment fits you using the pattern envelope and then how it fits you using the pattern paper as I did. And then you can make your decisions with that information. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I hope that I taught you something that you may not have known before. Or if you have any other suggestions for me, please leave it in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe. There'll be more videos coming along. Thank you guys again. You have a wonderful and blessed day. Remember, you are wonderfully and beautifully made. Bye.